Okay, so today we're going to be doing what's called multiple two-point perspective. Last time we were together, we did 1-point and 2-point perspective together. And so the assumption with those is that everything is facing the same way. When all objects have their own angles, then they all need their own vanishing points. So that's where multiple two-point perspective comes into play. So please title yours multiple two-point perspective with the date. And today I'm going to be teaching you how to make things look like books to get ready for the Bookstack project. So first, we want to start out the same way that we did with our regular two-point perspective. So draw a horizon line across your paper, and we're going to add 2 vanishing points. Last time I had you put those on the way edge. This time I would like you to put them a little bit more inwards. So leave a little bit of room on both sides, and you'll see why later. I'm going to label mine A1 and A2, and you'll see why it's important to label, again, a little bit later. Now the first book that we want to start out with is the one that's closest to us because it's going to block the other objects. To us, whatever's closest to the horizon line is closest to us. So if an object is on the horizon line, then that's the closest. So we're going to draw a vertical line between these 2 vanishing points on the horizon line. You can see mine is a little bit more towards the left. And just like normal, we want to bring that to both sides. So get the top and the bottom and bring both of these to both vanishing points. Afterwards, you want to add in the sides, and since this is a book, we want it to look flatter and longer than we did with our initial cubes. So put in the left side and the right side. And I'm drawing these kind of lighter if I'm using a pencil so that I can erase them and get rid of them to add detail to them to make them look more like books later. Because this is a book that's on the horizon line, I can't see the top or the bottom, so I'm actually done with the base of it. So again, like I said, we're going to lighten our lines, and I'll show you how to make things look more like a book. When it comes to a book, there are 4 sides of it, and one of them is the cover, and it's called the spine because it, is essentially the backbone of your book. So I'm going to make this side a set of pages that I would see, and this side the attachment cover. So we'll start on the left, and I'm just going to go over my top and bottom lines again. And that center where I made, the closest corner, the initial line that we made, I'm going to curve it a little bit. And this will look like a hardcover book. So to make this look like a hardcover, we're going to make those lines a little bit thicker. So put the same shape that we just drew on the inside of the left side, like so. And the other side, we'll just go over our lines again and curve the back. Some books are going to be curved, some of them are going to be straight. Just depends on how old it is, how it was designed, how it was made, all of those things. And to put pages in here, I'm going to start by adding a little bit of detail, just a darker kind of bumpy line in there to show how things are bound together. And then the pages are going to be just a little bit inwards, and they're going to be this jagged line, and that has a little bit of that uneven texture that a pile of papers would. Since this book is at an angle to me, I'm going to add pages in, but they're also going to angle, like all your other lines, towards the vanishing point. So really lightly, not too dark, going all the way across. I'm going to add some pages in there. And again, they all head towards the vanishing point. And there you go. In order for this to look a little bit more like a book, we're going to have to shade it. And so I like to pick a dark side, a light side, and some mediums will end up being there as well. So just in general, I want the left side to be lighter and the right side will be darker. So I'm going to start by shading my right side just a little bit darker. And then my left side I'm going to keep a little bit lighter. I'm really gonna focus on shading just that hardcover part. Make that even lighter. And in the pages, you hopefully want to get rid of some of that horizon line, so you can just take your eraser to it. And there you go. One book done. Again, this one is on the horizon line because that's the closest book to us. So today we're going to put one above and one below. So let's start with the one above this book. So when we put in our next book, let's just say we can do either of these steps. So I'm going to decide that my next book is above it, and so that vertical line is going to go above my book. And you see that it's just a little bit higher, not too much, because I don't want it to look like it's far away from it. And I'm going to say this is angled differently than me, so I'm going to put in a new set of vanishing points. I'm going to put one over here to the left of A1, and I'll label this B1. And since I put it to the left on that side, I also need to put my vanishing points on the left on the other side. So it goes B and then A, B and then A. All your vanishing points have to be in the same order on both sides. Afterwards, you can treat this like normal. Bring the top and the bottom to both vanishing points. The only difference is if this goes through my book, like it's going here, I really want to go through it out to the other side. Then I'll decide how big I want to make this book. I'm going to add in one side over here, so some of it gets blocked, and then the other side I'm going to let hang a little bit over here. Afterwards, I want to establish anything else I need to do. So this is the crisscross part. So because this book is above me, I should see the bottom of it. I can't see the bottom of that line that I made, but I can see the bottom of this one. So this point right here needs to go all the way to that vanishing point that we made. So this is our B book, so this one will always go to, both of the B vanishing points. And once again, we're done with the basic structure. So we're going to lighten up our lines and detail this book. This time I'm going to have the cover be here, and I'm going to add some pages on the right side, so the opposite of what we did last time. Still starts with me outlining the cover, so a slight curve there, and then I want to replicate that shape on the inside, and I usually refer to this as making a bracket. So something that'll hold our books together. All the other lines are basically the same. Again, I'm just going to curve the end a little bit and darken out those other lines like normal. Go in here and add some pages. If you want to, you can add a slight curve to it. So my curve is just going inwards. And this time I'm going to bring the pages towards the right because they're in the right section. Now it's time to shade. I've already decided which side I wanted to be lighter and darker, so I'm going to keep with that. Obviously, I'm using different colors today, which might not always be possible for you, especially if you're just using pencil. And so what you want to do is shade the cover on the right side get those lines in there. On the left side, we're going to be a little bit lighter, just like before. Have this book go like this one. And then underneath it, light tends to come from up above, so I'm going to make it extra dark on this panel here, where I imagine there's not a lot of light. Now my pages are blank on that side, but since the right side's a little bit darker, I also want to shade the pages just a little bit at least on this side to make it more consistent. And there you go. The last book is going to be one that's below the horizon line, since we did one above us. Now we'll do one below us. And we can either put the vanishing points in now, or we can put in the first corner of the book. That corner that we draw initially is the corner that's closest to us. It's the biggest part that we see. This time I'm just going to put my vanishing point in. So it goes B, A, C. On the other side, I'm going to go B, A, C, so make sure C is the last one, just like it is on the right side, and the left side has to be the same. Next, I'm going to put in wherever I want my corner to be. Again, a little bit of space between that and the first book, but not too much. Bring it to both vanishing points. Make sure they go to the right ones, so C on both sides. Again, anything that would go under your first book, you just want to come out the other side. Add in your sides. So I added the left side. I'm going to extend the right side again. It doesn't matter, wherever you want to put them is fine, for the most part at least. Some of these things are going to be kind of physically impossible, but when we're making that up, you kind of learn to look for what looks more natural. This time this book is below me, so I should see the top of it. Now I can't see that top corner on the left, but I can see the one on the right here. So I'm going to take that corner and bring it over to the opposite vanishing point, so cross. Let's go over those lines again. And this time I'm going to show you what it looks like to have a book that is going towards you. So the pages are all facing you and the binding is in the back. So I'm going to decide that the outside over there, this corner, is going to be where things are bound together. So I'm just going to curve that. And then I'm going to go over all my lines again. And then on the inside, I'm going to do the same thing. So you can see this book is a little bit larger. That's because that first line, this corner here, I drew a little bit larger. So however large you decide to make, that first line is going to determine the width of your book. So if you wanted a skinny book, you'd make this a really short line. Alright. So I have all of my cover figured out. Next is the pages. I'm going to detail over there. And then this corner is also going to be detailed with pages. So just that jagged line. And now I have two sets of points that I need to deal with for the pages. On the right side, I'm going to have the lines go towards the right. You can use your ruler to do this, but just make sure your lines aren't so even that they look strange. So I'll demonstrate what looks a little bit weird about that. So if you make your lines dark and really even, even if they're going towards the vanishing point, they'll look a little bit strange. If you make them dark, if you make them way too even, it doesn't really look natural the way that pages should look. So really try and be light about it, and make sure you get the angle correct. Last time, let's shade. Establish which side is darker and which side is lighter. Shading in my cover. And obviously there'd be a little bit more nuance to this, what has cast shadows, which books are putting cast shadows on the others. But for now, I don't really need to deal with that. The pages are also important to shade. Since there are two of them, you really want them to be distinct from each other, so on the right, I'm keeping them kind of lighter. If you just don't want to touch them, that's fine, just leave them white. But sorry, that was on the left side, silly. On the right side, I am going to be darker. And there's everything you need to create a book stack. If you wanted to make this look more realistic, you could get rid of your lines, but today they're going to be important just for teaching us how to put our vanishing points in order. So let's quickly write what's important to note. So anywhere on this paper or on the next paper, you can write these things down just to help you. So in multiple 2-point perspective, there's always one horizon line. But on that horizon line, each object has its own pair of vanishing points. The only exception to that would be if things are angled the exact same way, then they can have the same vanishing points. Or if something's in 1-point perspective, it would get 1 instead of a pair. Now those vanishing points must be in the same order. So if I added D to this and I put it between A and C, it would have to be in the same place on the other side. And then, if you remember, we started with the object that was closest to us or on the horizon line, and because it's the closest to us, it's going to block the other objects. So you see that our blue book blocks the orange one and the pink one because it's closest to us. The other ones in the stack are going to be further and further. About the orange book, it's higher than us, and so it points upwards a little bit. You can see that the corner points up, and you can see the bottom of it. The opposite is true for the bottom book. So lower objects point down, and so you can see the top of them. So on this same sketchbook paper, the one that we just worked on together, I want you to add 2 more books, preferably one above and below. If you can't fit 2 of them going above and below, then you can put them both on top or both below. Make them really thin if you need to, and give them their own vanishing points. Make sure that they look like books as well. So again, that's one above and one below, and add in the vanishing points wherever you want to, in between them, to the left, to the right. Just make sure that they go in the same order. And that's how you do multiple 2-point perspective.